So we did a little warm-up before class started, but now we're on to just a review day today of solving these, and the theme is clear the fractions out. But right away I'm like, am I supposed to multiply by that everywhere? No. Nope. Why not? It's the denominator, why shouldn't I just multiply by it? Because what do you do first? Factor it. Go ahead and factor that then. Always just do one thing at a time. If you haven't got x's in there, what are you even doing with your life? Next, think about the signs. Don't try to struggle with the numbers yet. Wait, look at the signs. Since the last number is negative, you should know there must be a positive and a negative. Those two things can happen so quick. Then the last thing that you have to do is figure out, well, how do I make a 10? It's either a 5 and a 2, or it's a 10 and a 1, and I'm projecting it's probably a 5 and a 2. And one more pro tip. If I'm picking where to put that 5, you think ahead and you go, well, I want it to come out positive. So the bigger number should be positive. So 5 is bigger, so I'm going to make it positive. And a lot of times, that, oops, not 5 times 3, Mr. Server, 5 times 2. And a lot of times that'll work, and I think it just did. And in fact, if you just look over here, you could have probably figured, well, it's probably going to be an x plus 5 and an x minus 2. Okay. So now we have the job of clearing the fractions, though. So now you're going to go through and multiply everything by, and in this case, I would do the dub step too. I would do the double step just because it saves you time, and most of you guys don't want to spend any more time on your homework than you have to. We're all naturally like wanting to be more efficient. Some would call it lazy. I would rather say, I'm not just going to watch TV with my extra time. I'd rather not waste time. I'd rather use that time for something else. So I'm going to do it the most efficient way. But if this becomes overwhelming to you, just do one of it at a time and it's okay. And now that cancels that, and that cancels that, and that cancels that, and that cancels that. Tully, after everything canceled, can you tell me what equation you were left with? Or if you're not done yet, just do it with me. That, and that, and that.
3x squared minus 6x plus 1x plus 5 equals 7.
Perfect. And then we just got to get like terms. That is not like anything else, so it just stays in front. And by the way, if that was negative, if that lead number was negative, I'd be thinking about moving it to the other side. But it's not negative, so I'm not going to do that. This negative 6x and this positive 1x makes negative 5x. And then I'm going to do a step in here, even though I'm simplifying. I'm also going to subtract 7 from both sides. I can do that. Then it equals 0. It's always good to make your quadratics equal 0. And then 9 times out of 10, they're going to factor. And the other one time, you got to use a quadratic formula. So I'm thinking that this thing should factor. Again, if you ever are like stuck, force yourself to just do stuff you know one little step at a time. Like I know it'll have 2 parentheses. I know it's going to be a 3x and an x. I know because this is negative, there has to be a plus and a minus. Where it is, I don't know. So I just stick it in somewhere. 1 plus and 1 minus. And then like the only last logical thing is it has to be a 2 and a 1. That's the only way to make a 2. This number and this number have to be a 2 and a 1. Now where? I don't know, but I'll just try it here. And if it doesn't work badly, I'll move the numbers. If it's the opposite of what I wanted, I will change the signs. This one's 2x, this one's negative 3x. Together they make negative x. That missed badly. Like, it's negative x isn't even close to 5x. So then I switch the numbers. 2 goes here then, and 1 goes here. And I'm still not guaranteed to have it right, but I'm guaranteed to be closer. 1x, negative 6x. Together that makes negative 5x. Boom, I got lucky. If I hadn't been lucky, I would have switched the signs. And that would have been it. All right, am I done? No. If you just factored it, that is the hard work. But now there's one last step, and it's really important. You've got to solve it by saying x minus 2 needs to equal 0. So x equals 2. And 3x plus 1 equals 0. So 3x equals negative 1. So x equals negative 1/3. And then I'm just going to ask, did anybody think to go back and look at the original problem? Anybody? Dominic, what did you find? Nice. See how up here, when you stick one of these answers in, when you stick in this 2, right there, you get a 0 on the bottom. You can't divide by 0, so that gets crossed off. I bet a lot of you didn't notice that, and it's going to happen on this next test. Where people will forget to check, do these answers actually work? And if those answers cause the original problem to fail, they're called extraneous. I would accept it if you just crossed it off, but just so you know, if you have a really picky teacher, they need you to write extraneous, or an abbreviation for it at least. So try to remember to write EXT. Okay? One thing I cannot accept is just if there's no answer there. Like if you just erased it, that's not okay. You got to identify the answer and cross it off, showing that it was an answer, but it's extraneous answer. So like just erasing it, bad move. Then you haven't identified the extraneous solution. You've only got the real one. That is a real answer, which means on the graph it would touch right there at negative 1/3. Okay. This is our next homework problem. And if you tried to do it without factoring this, you would suffer pain, because you'd have such a big complicated problem at the end. But if you factor that first, you'll realize that it's an amalgamation of this and this, and then you really only have to multiply by x through the whole thing. And if your life just gets too complicated, just do one step at a time. Just multiply everything by x. It will help. Your problem will be easier at the end. And some people think, what about this 0? Well, 0 times x is just 0. So you can just leave it as a 0. And then this x does cancel this x. And I'm left with x minus 3 minus 3x over x plus 1. And this x cancels this x. And that's already gone because we factored it. And so I'm left with plus 3 over x plus 1 equals 0. Now I didn't do the double step. So now I got to go and do the dub step. I'm going to go multiply everything, all 3 terms, by x plus 1. This is where you just have to be really careful. Things like parentheses all of a sudden matter a lot. Because here, you could have very easily thought, I'll just multiply it by the x. Nope. You got to multiply it all out. So it'll have 4 parts. This part's super easy, and this part's super easy. All right, I'll let you finish it from there. So my goal for today is that you just work through this whole worksheet. I'm assigning the whole thing, but I'm giving you like a ton of time. And I'm going to call you up one by one, unless you volunteer first on talking top 20. Or if you're missing first 20 skills, that's really important too. So I'm going to leave it on you that we'll all open up the top 20. You'll look it over and you'll decide if you want to come up and ask for help or if you're going to wait for me to call you up to ask for help. And that's all I got for you for today.